Greetings and salutations to one and all. Welcome to the night shift. How you doing? I want to say big ups to each and everyone locked in right now. Those on TuneIn Radio on the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew, big ups to you. Those locked in on One Harmony Radio across the pond, top of the morning to you. Want to say big ups to those on WGLRO, home of the Donny Walker Morning Show, taking it from the sheets to the streets on the People Station. Big ups to those on Oliwap Media Group, on Dusik Media Group. Welcome to the night shift. Want to say big ups to those on NIE Radio up there in New Jersey. Those locked in on their neighboring state, I should say. On island worldwide in New York. Big ups to you. Also big ups to those who are locked in on the Foundation Radio Network, ClintonLindsay.com. Of course, those on PEMGTV.com. So glad to have you. Couldn't do it without you. You have my word, I wouldn't even try. In the background is on a second star. Working out with SJC Riches, SCG Voix Riches. And Aliyah Richards. Lies, Aliyah Lewis. So you have too much information. So Aliyah Lewis, SJC Voix Riches. And second star. The track is called The Kings and Queens. If you're joining for the first time, welcome to the night shift to DJ Kevin Stew. On Tuesdays we do a thing we call Healthy Love. And before we get into it, I want to say thank you to my segment sponsor, Pulse Media Group. When being in a moment is priceless, you get them a call. They provide innovative streaming and recording solutions. So everything that you see going on right here on your screens, those of you that are watching, if you want to stream an event live, a wedding, a funeral, church service, graduation, seminar, party, give them a call, 754-999-6020, or check them out on pulseemg.com. You get to host your own event on a secure platform, run your ads the way you want to, and own your material. Thank you, Pulse Media Group. Those of you just joining on Facebook Live, welcome, welcome, welcome. Inviting you to call a friend, tell a friend. It's a night shift to DJ Kevin Steele. When you run out of friends, call the friends of your enemies, the enemies of your friends. And call your enemies too. Tell them night shift to DJ Kevin Steele is on Healthy Love Night. Inviting you all to join us. Numbers to call, numbers to text, 773-789-STEW. 773-789-7839. Those are the numbers that get you in touch. The music of Second Star, Kings and Queens. Featuring SJC, Voix, Riches, and Aaliyah Lewis. Alright, so that takes care of that. Now we get into the meat of the matter, and let me go ahead and pin this in the comments section for those of you who are on Facebook Live. You know, I always do this, and you would think that by now I would have fit it in before I got down to the meat of the matter, right? No. I want to squeeze it in when I'm talking, and so that way I get to multitask even more. Because, you know, you're not doing anything unless you're multitasking, right? So tonight on Healthy Love, we're looking at the role gender could possibly play in a immune response to a virus. And it's kind of taking a little bit of a break from talking constantly about the whole coronavirus thing, but at the same time keeping it in the back of our minds. So yeah, we're talking about it, but we're not talking about it specifically. Now, when it comes to a virus, when a virus infects a person called a host, it invades the cells of its host in order to survive and to replicate. Now, once it is inside the cells of the immune system, once it is inside the cells, the immune system cannot see the virus. And I like how they phrase this. So the immune system cannot see or cannot recognize the virus, and therefore it doesn't know what the host cell is doing. It doesn't know that the host cell is infected. Now, in order to get past this, cells employ a system that allows them to show other cells what is inside them. They use molecules called class 1 major histocompatibility complex proteins, or MHC class 1 for short. And I'm so grateful for some of these abbreviations. They use this to display pieces of protein from inside the cell upon the cell surface. If the cell is infected with a virus, these pieces of peptide will include fragments of proteins made by the virus. Alright, you get that? Because one of the things that is talked about quite often nowadays is, especially with the creation of these vaccines in no time flat, is that they're using a different kind of technology. They're using a kind of system that has these proteins being recognized and hence triggering an immune response. Well, that's how they said it anyway. So, according to immunology.org, a special cell of the immune system called a T cell circulates looking for infections. So, these are like your little cops, right? Hey, Janice, how are you doing? One type of T cell is called cytotoxic T cell. because it kills cells that are infected with with viruses with toxic mediators. Cytotoxic T cells have specialized proteins on their surface that help them to recognize virally infected cells. Now, these proteins are called T cell receptors, TCRs. Each cytotoxic T cell has a TCR that can identify, that can specifically recognize a particular antigenic peptide bound to an MHC molecule. If the T cell receptor detects a peptide from a virus, it warns its T cell of an infection. The T cell releases cytotoxic factors to kill the infected cell and therefore prevent survival of the invading virus. You with me so far? 773-789 Stu gets you in touch. 773-789-7839. Hey Joy, how you doing? So far so good, all is well. Talking a little bit about, well, we're getting to how the possibility of gender when it comes to immune responses. Now, as I continue to multitask, however, another immune cell specializes in killing cells that have a reduced number of MHC class 1 molecules on their surface, or class I molecules. Is it class I or class 1? With these texts, you can never be too sure. Now, this cell is a natural killer cell, or NK cell for short. When the NK cell finds a cell displaying fewer than normal MHC molecules, it releases toxic substances in a similar way to cytotoxic T cells, which kills a virally infected cell. So, all of this is going on inside our bodies, and we clearly have no clue that this is happening. Nor do we have a clue at the rate at which it happens, or frequency. Cytotoxic cells are armed with preformed mediators. Cytotoxic factors are stored inside compartments called granules. In both cytotoxic T cells and NK cells, until contact with an infected cell triggers their release, these granules stay intact. One of these mediators is perforin. And perforin is a protein that can make pores in cell membranes. These pores allow entry of other factors into a target cell to facilitate destruction of the cell. Enzymes called granzymes are also stored in and released from the granules. Granzymes enter target cells through the holes made by perforin. Still with me? Cool. Now, if any of you listeners want to jump in at any time, feel free. 773-789-STEW, 773-789-7839. Comment here on FB Live. I know children that are breastfed have a stronger immune system than children that don't. Wonder if that affects I wonder if that affects you at your age, I guess. Strong immune systems get stronger as we get older. Oh, as you age. Okay, cool. So, children that are breastfed versus children that are not breastfed, I have an opinion on that. And this comes from doing a number of these particular broadcasts, these health shows, and speaking with individuals in the medical field. One of them being Dr. Janice Stone, who happens to be my chiropractor. And from time to time, my co-host on Healthy Love. Now, Healthy Love started with Dr. Stone. So you might hear me refer to Dr. J Love. That's Janice. That's Dr. Janice Stone right there. Dr. J Love, yeah? Alright, so but if any of you want to jump in and share, feel free. 773-789-STEW, 773-789-7839. And you can call, you can text, you can WhatsApp. If you are overseas and WhatsApp doesn't work for you, you can't text, you can also Skype. So Kevin.stew is a Skype handle. You can call in on that or you can message in on that. And we can share your comment. Right? Cool. So now, continuing with this information as per immunology.org. Once inside the target cell, they initiate a process known as programmed cell death or apoptosis, causing the target cell to die. Another released cytotoxic factor is granulosin, which directly attacks the outer membrane of the target cell, destroying it by lysis. Now, cytotoxic cells also newly synthesize and release other proteins called cytokines after making contact with infected cells. Cytokines include interferon G and tumor necrosis factor A. They transfer a signal from the T cell to the infected or other neighboring cells to enhance the killing mechanisms. So there's a whole war that is going on inside of us. Virally infected cells produce and release small proteins called interferons. These play a role in immune protection against viruses. Interferons prevent replication of viruses by directly interfering with their ability to replicate within an infected cell. They also act as signaling molecules that allow infected cells to warn nearby cells of a viral presence. This signal makes neighboring cells increase the number of MHC class I molecules upon their surface, so that T cells surveying the area can identify and eliminate the viral infection that we just mentioned. So here you have these little informer cells, or these little proteins that are your informers. And informers are not necessarily bad things, because these cells are telling everybody else, hey, listen, this particular cell over here, this one is infected. This one is not like us anymore. This one changed. So we need to get rid of this one, or else we're all going to change like it, and not for the better. That's the kind of thing that these cells, that these proteins do. So as we're going through and learning about some of these things, we're seeing how this battle plays out. So as a quick recap, so you have your class I major histocompatibility complex proteins, your MHC class I, or your class 1, whichever one it is, depending on the text, how the text is. And I believe it is class I. Then you have your T cells, which look out for infections. And you have your cytotoxic T cells. And these then have they recognize a particular antigen peptide bound to MHC molecules. And if they find, so these are your police cells. And then they go out and they're scouring as their regular cells are going about doing their thing. Then you have your NK or your natural killer cells that also work with your T cells. And you have granules, perforin, granzymes that are inactive, that are in a part or are as a part of the process used by T cells and NK cells. And then in the process of killing the cells, known as apoptosis, you have these other proteins or these other factors that come into play, like granulosin. And the cytotoxic cells, which is the last things, some of the last bit of information that we looked at, the cytotoxic cells synthesize and release some other proteins called cytokines. And you hear the talk about cytokine storms. Right, so that's how the cytokine comes into play. Cytotoxic cells synthesize and release these proteins. Now, cytokines include interferon G and tumor necrosis factor A. And they transfer a signal from the T cell to the infrared, to the infected or other neighboring cells, which now says, hey, you know, let's get active and kill this intruder, right? Virally infected cells produce these small proteins called interferons. And we quickly looked at how the interferons play a role in this whole recognition of viruses and fight. Because these interferons play a role in immune protection against viruses. So, let me see. It's 25 minutes after the hour. And in just a few moments, we're going to part company with Facebook Live and just be on PEMGTV.com in its entirety for the remainder of the broadcast. So those of you who are locked in on FB Live, just use the link, come on over, and let's keep the conversation going, yeah? In another few minutes, we're going to take this break and say see you to FB Live. Now, viruses can also be removed from the body by antibodies. And they come into play before they get a chance to infect a cell. Now, antibodies are proteins that specifically recognize invading pathogens and bind, or they stick to them. And this binding serves many purposes in the eradication of viruses. Firstly, the antibodies neutralize the virus, meaning it is no longer capable of infecting the host cell. Secondly, many antibodies can work together, causing virus particles to stick together in a process called agglutination. Now, agglutinated viruses make an easier target for immune cells than single virus particles. You see how intelligent the human body is? A third mechanism used by antibodies to eradicate viruses is the activation of phagocytes. A virus-bound antibody binds to receptors called FC receptors. Now, on the surface of phagocytic cells, and they trigger a mechanism known as phagocytosis. And this is where a cell will engulf and destroy the virus. And finally, antibodies can also activate the complement system, which it promotes phagocytosis of viruses. complement can also damage the envelope that is present on some types of viruses. So that's the little layer that is around the virus cell. So you see the importance of antibodies. All right, so but it doesn't stop there. And that's a really cool thing about how the cells work when it comes to having an immune response to viruses. Now, an immune response to bacteria tends to go a little bit different, but for the sake of this broadcast, we're looking at the immune responses to viruses. Now, what I came across recently is an article courtesy of thescientist.com. And with having that little overview of how cells work when it comes to attacking viruses, the scientists.com said, hey, listen, you know, if stronger interferon production and greater T cell activation and increased susceptibility to autoimmunity are just some of the ways that the body works in fighting off viruses, which gender has any of this a little bit more than the other? Or does one of the genders have it? And apparently, this somewhat differs in females and males. And that now is pretty much where we're going with all of this. I just had to kind of lay the foundation of how the body reacts to a virus coming in and what takes place. So we took care of that overview. Now we're going to get down to the meat of the matter, according to the scientist.com, and how there could be a difference in immune responses to viral infection as per gender. Now, I have never thought gender would play a role in immune responses. Whether it is boys will get better faster than girls from a viral infection, or vice versa. I never thought about it. I just thought the only difference between men and women are just that, their gender. Everything else would remain the same. You know, how the body heals itself, how the body fights viruses. But apparently, there might be a little bit of a difference. And when we come back from the break, we're going to look into that. Call your friends, tell your friends. It's a night shift to DJ Kevin Stew Healthy Love Night. We'll be right back.
Pulsey Media Group, innovative streaming and recording, has done it again. A new way to get your business in full view of your neighborhood consumer through AdShare TV. It's available in your neighborhood today. It's easy. Just call us 754-999-6020. Become a host today and place a TV monitor in a strategic location so it's easy to see. Get a 1-minute video ad or longer that plays anywhere in our network. Can't be a host? No problem. For a few dollars, we'll run your 30-second video ad. A host can run announcement specials like buy one get one free or discount ads. Let's turn your flyers into a 30-second video with music or a voiceover, or let us create and run your video ad with a spokesperson. Take advantage of our early enrollment discount. Join us today. Your ad will be seen at least 30 times per day in your AdShare TV neighborhood. It's easy. Just call us 754-999-6020. AdShare TV, part of Pulsey Media Group.
Imagine having our own Caribbean Center.
Imagine a museum highlighting our history and the contributions of Caribbean people to the world.
Imagine being able to visit and learn about the islands we call home.
In a place where our kids can see and feel their cultural heritage. You can make this vision come to life.
Help us create this first of its kind space
that all Caribbean people can be proud of. Your contribution to Island Space Caribbean Museum will help this dream come true.
Visit islandspacefl.org/GoFundMe.
Visit islandspacefl.org/GoFundMe.
Visit islandspacefl.org/GoFundMe and donate today.
It takes an entire village to raise a child. Hello, I'm Paul Campbell, here to talk about PALACE, Peace and Love Academic Scholarship. This non-profit group supports students facing serious obstacles from entering or continuing their studies, not because the grades are failing, but due to the lack of financial support.
Over the past 8 years, PALACE has awarded 600 scholarships valued at approximately 50.3 million Jamaican dollars, or 415,000 US dollars.
Together, we must build a better future for our children. Please visit www.palace1.org and make your donation to brighten the future of a deserving child. PALACE, preserving young minds for posterity.
Matthew 28:19 says, "Go ye therefore and teach all nations." With this in mind, and encouragement received during a South Florida media conference, The Church Links was birthed. The Church Links is an interdenominational worship service portal for churches, providing the tools to spread the word through technology in a cost-effective way. The Church Links, www.dahchurchlinx.com. Your links to worship and praise.
I'm representing for DJ Kevin Stew, working on the night shift radio show. Won't go changing like the weather, just to please the devil never. Will DJ Kevin Stew sell his soul? That's a word and honor. It's Christine representing word and honor. Celestia DJ Kevin Stew.
Humans getting abused, telling you the truth. For that proof, check your plus engage your youth. Removing the root of human. 99% of leaders and teachers are useless. I don't care what I've been told. Outside the carnival, reflect the times of old. Outlive a blinded soul, fat cats with rhymes I scold. Tech firms piggybacking on babies, mining gold.
There's a whole heap of love, I got a whole heap of love. There's a whole heap of love, be strong. Let me tell you, there's a whole heap of love, I got a whole heap of love. You better trust me, brother. Come on, listen to me. Once loud, proud, now we got this aerial view. So when you're telling your crew, be prepared not to be scared of scaring a few. Loving humanity, whatever you do, cause I is you, and you are too. Come on. You are too. Clap your hands together. Get it together, come on, baby.
Welcome back to the broadcast. The zone of Carpet Face working out to Jimmy Lyons. Track called The Human. Want to say thanks to my segment sponsor, Althea and her Healing Heavenly Hands. Althea is a licensed massage therapist of 20 years. She comes to you, operating out of Broad County, North Miami-Dade and South Palm Beach counties. Let's give her a call. 954-655-9000 or email her at thealater@att.net. Of course, she comes to you COVID free, and she'd like to leave that way. One of the only requests that she has outside of paying her, you get off her table when she's done and go sleep somewhere else. Because you're definitely guaranteed to fall asleep. I tell you all this all the time, you know. I get a massage from this woman, I am out. So I have to get a massage close to a bed or a couch, and she gets done. I just kind of roll off or slide off the table onto the couch or right over to the bed, and that's it. You know, see yourself out kind of a deal. You know, if anything gets missing, I know who took it. So, no. But I have never had to worry about anything like that with her. You know, so I get my massages and I go to sleep. It's a beautiful thing, can I tell you? Beautiful, beautiful thing. So if you're in Broad County, North Miami-Dade or South Palm Beach counties, go ahead and give her a call. Tell her DJ Kevin Stew sent you. Yeah? Alright, cool. And then link me and tell me how you like it. And when you're getting it again. Because you won't be satisfied with just one. That's for sure. So tonight on Healthy Love, we're talking about the role of gender in an immune response to getting a virus. Now, among the many health disparities characterizing the COVID-19 pandemic, one that has received particular attention is the difference in outcomes between men and women. As early as February of 2020, researchers observed that although men and women were contracting COVID-19 at similar rates, men seemed far more likely to die from the disease. Evidence of the gap has continued to emerge as COVID-19 data sets have expanded. For instance, data aggregated by the Sex, Gender, and COVID-19 Project indicate that although statistics vary substantially among countries around the world, men with the disease are around 20% more likely to be hospitalized than women. Once they are hospitalized, men are more likely to require intensive care. Now, once they're in intensive care, try to say that 3 times fast. Once in intensive care, they are more likely to die if they're in intensive care. So this now has clearly caused some people to look a little bit deeper into this. One person, unsurprised by these differences, is Sabra Klein, a biologist at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. Now, Klein has been studying immune responses to viral infections for more than 2 decades and says that COVID-19 is helping to shine a spotlight on an important truth in infectious disease biology. And that truth is that viruses and other pathogens don't equally affect women and men for the purposes of this. People with 2 chromosomes and those with 1X and 1Y, respectively. So viruses and pathogens, they don't affect women and men quite the same. And at least some of that difference cannot simply be explained by differences in exposure or risk-related behavior between men and women. What that boils down to is biology. Once a controversial idea, the concept of sex differences in immune function has taken hold in the research community over the last few years. Retrospective analyses of data from the 2003 SARS and 2013 to 2014 MERS coronavirus outbreaks have revealed that among detected cases, men had a higher risk of death than women. And several other viruses, such as hepatitis C, are known to cause more serious infections in men. But on the other hand, autoimmune conditions such as lupus, multiple sclerosis, and rheumatoid arthritis, which in many cases are thought to arise from overreaction of antiviral immune pathways, are far more prevalent in women. This now leading Klein and other researchers to theorize that scientists might be observing 2 sides of the same coin. Again, never before had I even thought that when it comes to viruses, there would be a role that comes into play when it comes to gender. I never thought just gender would make such a difference. With the pandemic helping to draw attention to the influence of sex on disease outcome, Klein and others have been digging into the mechanisms underlying differences in immune responses between XY males and XX females. Now, let me pause here. Because individuals today will identify differently to a gender, this is why they go as far as to say XY males and XX females, referring to the chromosomes. Okay? So it is not being, they're eliminating the whole what is your pronoun bit of information, and they're just taking it down to chromosomes. That's basically where they're going with this. All right? So both in humans and in other mammals, there are several findings that reveal fundamental distinctions at a genetic, cellular, and organismal and I laugh because I remember having a discussion with a friend of mine, and this just triggered that discussion. So, but I digress. Both in humans and in other mammals, their findings reveal that fundamental distinctions in the genetic, cellular, and organismal level that Klein says could influence how scientists approach the study, treatment, and prevention of human infectious diseases. SARS-CoV-2 has just changed the discussion immensely. And the hope here is that moving forward, post-pandemic, this starts to spread, and we begin to see considerations more broadly in immunology and infectious diseases. So they're hoping that looking some more into this, that we stand to benefit information-wise. Okay. Glad you were able to handle that, Joy. Yeah, I added a monitor over there, and I have the chat on that monitor over there while I give you the information from this monitor over here. Yeah, so you see me looking over there? Yeah, that's what that is for. You should see this studio setup right now. Ridiculous. All right. Anyway, perhaps the most consistent result that researchers have found as they study functional variation in the mammalian immune system is that females tend to mount stronger immune responses to viral infections than males do. And this says Marcus Altfeld, an immunologist at the Heinrich Pett Institute in Hamburg. This difference is particularly evident in the cells involved in the innate immune system, which tend to respond faster in females to stimulation by viruses that bind to those cells, receptors, and once stimulated, launch a greater production of antiviral signaling molecules. This is really the first step in the immune response against a virus, Altfeld explains. And we looked at it in pretty much briefly, an overview of how the body responds to an infection, a viral infection, and how the cells, what roles various cells play in that, and how they play that role. His group, Altfeld's group, has focused on toll-like receptors, or toll-like receptor 7, TLR7, a protein involved in detecting and responding to a single-stranded RNA in the cell cytoplasm, an early warning sign that a virus has invaded a cell. As early as 2009, Altfeld, then at Harvard Medical School, and colleagues observed a certain TLR7 bearing immune cells known as plasmacytoid dendritic. So it's plasmacytoid dendritic cells from women produced significantly more interferons in response to stimulation with bits of HIV RNA than did cells from men. Other researchers have found that neutrophils, that most abundant type of white blood cell in the mammalian immune system, appear to be more responsive to interferon signaling if they're sampled from women. Specifically, female cells grow stronger upregulation of multiple genes involved in immune defense, according to a study published last year by Mariana Kaplan and colleagues at the National Institute of Arthritis and Musculoskeletal and Skin Diseases. Now, research in the past few years has pointed to sex differences in the development of adaptive immunity. Klein, who uses influenza vaccines to experimentally study mice's responses to immune stimulation, has found that female animals tend to generate higher neutralizing antibody responses. T cells, which are typically associated with adaptive immune responses, but can play a role in innate immunity as well, also show sex-specific characteristics. For example, multiple studies point to a higher number of helper T cells, which promote the activation of large swaths of the adaptive immune system in female children and adults than in males. Who knew? So, not only are men dying faster or more frequently than women because of wars, but also because of viruses. Because women have a stronger immune response. The information, as per thescientist.com, continues. Klein says that the stronger immune responses illustrated by these and similar studies are likely a double-edged sword from a health perspective. On the one hand, females' heightened immune activation could help limit the amount of virus in the body, an effect observed in people with HIV, for example, as women tend to have much lower viral loads than men do in the first few years following infection. Additionally, females seem to generate better protective antibody responses than do males following vaccination against influenza, yellow fever, dengue, and several other viruses. On the other hand, that same biology likely also predisposes females to diseases stemming from overactive immune responses. Klein notes the downside of this robust immunity is that 80% of all autoimmune diseases patients are women. And she says, we are so much more likely to have autoimmune diseases. We are significantly more likely to have multiple autoimmune diseases. So I guess that is what levels the playing field. The fact that now they have, because their immune response is so active, now you have overactive autoimmune and an autoimmune system. So, I guess you can't have it all. There has to be a balance somewhere. Women are also at greater risk for disease progression in some infections driven by immune system interactions, such as HIV infection, which progress to AIDS faster in women than it does in men. Altfeld's group has reported clinical data showing that women with HIV have higher T-cell activation, a key predictor of disease progression, than do males with the same viral load, and concluded in their 2009 study that females' stronger TLR7 signaling likely accounted for part of this difference. So, how does that play into this COVID thing? 3 minutes before the top of the hour, at the top of the hour, we're going to take another break. And then we wrap this up and get into musical therapy. Although many details of SARS-CoV-2 infection are yet to be described, several studies have already hinted that discrepancies in immune system function may be responsible for some of the sex differences in COVID-19 disease outcome, including the fact that men appear to be more at risk of death. Yale University's Akiko Iwasaki and colleagues recently demonstrated that female patients admitted to the hospital with COVID-19 had higher numbers of activated T cells than male patients did. For example, reinforcing the idea that women generate a stronger immune response to SARS-CoV-2 and may be better protected from severe disease. Meanwhile, early studies of long COVID, a loosely defined condition involving symptoms lasting weeks or months after infection, already indicate a female bias. Although the condition is far from being understood, some researchers have speculated that the disease might be mediated by T cells and could involve attack against self-antigens, which are molecular markers on a person's own cells, just like an autoimmune condition. Now, I remember someone I know on social media, a friend of mine, sent me a message stating that she was first diagnosed back in January or February of 2020, and at the end of the year was still diagnosed as positive with the virus. Crazy, right? But this now could explain some of that away. There's a gender role that comes into play with immunity or an immune response to viruses. Who knew? We're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more and look at the source of the differences between the sexes when it comes to these infections and these viruses. Call a friend, tell a friend. It's a night shift with DJ Kevin Stew. Healthy Love Night. We'll be right back after these messages.
When being in the moment is priceless, consider the ability to share that moment. If you can video it, you can broadcast it. And Pulse E-Media Group has the tools you need. Weddings, birthdays, funerals, graduations, church services, parties, seminars, you name it. Pulse E-Media Group can provide you with a secure medium controlled by you to broadcast your event. Contact us at www.pulseemediagroup.com for more information. Pulse E-Media Group, when being in the moment is priceless.
Come on, smile. Oh, honey, he's still not smiling.
Maybe he's not a smiler.
Yeah, maybe he's just not a happy baby.
Maybe he's just being a boy.
Or maybe he's teething.
Maybe it's just a phase.
Maybe he has autism, and we can definitely do something to help.
Maybe is all you need to find out more about autism. No big, joyful smiles by 6 months is one early sign. Learn the others at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Greetings and salutations, one and all. You're invited to tune in to the Night Shift with DJ Kevin Stew. It airs on Mondays with Community and Finance, Tuesdays with Healthy Love, and Wednesdays with Real Talk from 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time. Come spend some time interacting in the stew pot where we keep things bubbling and wind down in musical therapy. The Night Shift with DJ Kevin Stew is on kevinstew.com, where you're encouraged to have acceptance through enlightenment.
Hey yo, this is Caraman to let you know that right about now you are logged on to DJ Kevin Stew on the Night Shift. Don't move.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Enough is enough. Dirty virus. Covetous 19 year. Dirty virus. Covetous 19 year. Sick of you. Yo. Ever since that day you came on this earth, you cause us pain, you make us hurt. Yes, we've been blind, but now the world can see. You're not alone around take your owners and flee. Watch when a Lucifer, yo, dirty virus, yo. Vicious 19, yo. You know, welcome round here. Dirty virus, yo. Where you from? Vicious 19, yo. Carry some of them oppressors when you leave. You like an evil spirit, you locked us down. We could not make one single sound. But like a yard man, we'll use the words and free the nation, free as the birds. Together we'll chant dirty virus. And that's a good word. Vicious 19, yo. That's a easy good one. Dirty virus, yo. You try stop us, we'll stop you. Vicious 19, yo. Right now, I'm gonna tell you this enough. Our doctors and nurses, your respect is still. Keep on, fight the fight till the last one heal. So until that day when we can congregate, keep on, share this love, but let the virus kill the hate. So until then, let's chant dirty virus.
The sound of Mr. Ed Robinson.
Some more clad, vicious 19.
Dirty virus.
You think you can stop us from put them together?
Channeling his inner Tosh.
Vicious 19, yo.
Yeah, I haven't played this one in a minute.
I know for sure some mainstream would.
Hey Joy, thank you for sharing.
Play this one on their radios. But who round ya care? We never need them then, so we don't need them now. Hey fool, but us, yo.
I want to say thank you to my segment sponsor, Reggae Global Entertainment. Reggae Global Entertainment will take care of your bookings, handle your tour management, take care of your publishing, trademarks, business registration, legal service referrals, marketing and promotion, music production, and so much more. Give them a call 954-998-8034 or check them out online reggaeglobalentertainment.com.
Some mainstream woodlands won't play this one on their radios, but who round ya care? We never need them then, so we don't need them now. Hey fool, but us, yo, a long time you remind we of these germs, yeah. Dirty virus, yo. How you want me to call your right name? Vicious 19, yo. Now I'm interested in remembering your name. Dirty virus, yo. Your friend Swine Flu. Vicious 19, yo. We are trying to draw you.
Once and your friend Swine Flu. I don't know. Y'all need to get flushed. Ed Robinson, virus, ya clot. Love that tune. Ever since he made that tune, I've been loving that tune. Alright, so numbers to call, numbers to text if you want to get involved. 773-789-STEW, 773-789-7839. Call a friend, tell them you can participate using those numbers also. It's a night shift with DJ Kevin Stew, Healthy Love Night, happening right here each and every Tuesday. And I want to say thanks again to the affiliates, WGLRO out there in Texas, One Harmony Radio over in the UK, the Foundation Radio Network, ClintonLindsay.com, Island Worldwide, NIE Radio, Olliwap Music Group, Dusik Media, PEMGTV.com and the Paul C Media Group. Thank you all very much. We're looking at the role gender plays in a viral immune response. And there is a source of the differences between sexes when it comes to what is perceived as a difference in immune response. And as researchers make progress in defining the differences between male and female immune responses, they are also trying to address a parallel question concerning how and why those differences arise in the first place. Now, typically, scientists have attributed biological differences between the sexes to variation in the concentrations of sex hormones, predominantly testosterone and other androgens in male, and estrogen and progesterone in females. This is almost certainly an important source of differences in the immune system, says Klein, noting that every immune cell in your body has receptors for these hormones. In support of this idea, several in vitro studies have found that treatment with estrogen can reduce human immune cells' susceptibility to infection by viruses such as HIV. Kaplan's 2020 study of neutrophils also addressed the causes of differences in immune activation, finding that compared to male immune cells, female neutrophils had a more mature phenotype that was better prepared to respond to interferon stimulation. The team showed that they were able to push neutrophils from men toward that female phenotype by treating the cells with estradiol, the most prevalent type of estrogen. So, does this go back to that whole talk about women maturing faster than men? Does it have anything to do with that? You know, there's always been that gender war. Further hints of hormones, according to scientist.com, further hints of hormones rules come from observations that women's risk for certain diseases changes after menopause, when estrogen and progesterone levels typically decline. Klein said she reported in a recent paper, for example, that postmenopausal women's immune response to influenza vaccine is weaker than that of premenopausal women. Parallel experiments her group carried out in hormone-treated mice indicated a role for estrogen also, with estradiol increasing the magnitude of female animals' antibody responses to vaccination. There are hints of a similar effect with SARS-CoV-2 infection. A preprint posted on MedRiv last year, for example, in 2020, suggested that postmenopausal women may be at a greater risk of being diagnosed with COVID-19 than premenopausal women of a similar age, and may experience more serious symptoms. The same study reported that women under 45 years of age who were taking estrogen-containing contraceptive pills were less likely to be hospitalized than those who weren't on such pills, and posited that estrogen may help protect women against the disease. So, now, does this mean that we start giving men estrogen supplements? Or, well, we should be better able to fight off this virus, considering that so many men use plastic containers in microwaves which then help to contribute to estrogen-like properties with the breakdown of the plastic in the food. Now, so shouldn't we have at least a better fighting chance compared to women? Or the playing field leveled out a little bit? Okay, so it's estrogen-like properties, it's not estrogen. But, scientists, help me out here. Klein emphasizes that hormone-driven differences don't necessarily come just from differences in hormone concentrations circulating in the blood. They could also arise from different concentrations of sex hormone receptors on male and female cells. She adds that there's some evidence that levels of estrogen receptors decline in women after menopause, although due to the difficulty of measuring receptor levels, it has not been well studied enough. Despite a key important role for hormones, some consistent differences between males and females, different ratios of certain T cells and cytokines, for example, are seen in prepubescent boys and girls, suggesting that there are also non-hormonal drivers of divergence in immune system function. Indeed, recent research has provided evidence that at least some differences are mediated by genetics, and more specifically, by the sex chromosomes. Because biological females have 2 X chromosomes, and one X is typically silenced or inactivated early on during development, preventing an overdose of the proteins coded by X-linked genes. But in 2018, Jean-Charles Guéry, the director of the Center of Pathophysiology at INSERM in Toulouse, and colleagues reported that the TLR7 gene, which is on the X chromosome, somehow escapes inactivation in females and in people with Klinefelter syndrome, who have 2 X's and 1 Y chromosome. That's interesting. How you doing, 185? Blessings to you. I've never heard of Klinefelter's syndrome, and I may need to look into that. The sequence of this escape, the team showed was that substantial proportion of immune cells containing 2 X chromosomes had higher levels of TLR protein and were far more responsive to TLR7 stimulating ligands than were cells with a single X. Guéry says that the findings could help explain observational data, including that XX females and people with Klinefelter syndrome are far more susceptible than XY males to certain autoimmune conditions, such as lupus. So, in the fight against autoimmune conditions, is there chromosomal therapy that can be done? Or would that be talking about, or if there is such a thing as chromosomal therapy? Or do we then go to hormone treatments, which would then stimulate certain activities in the body relative to those that would that would come into play with those requiring those chromosomes? So the XX, and to reduce the frequency in autoimmune conditions, you introduce some male hormone, some testosterone to that female as a part of their treatment. Is that how it's done? I don't know how they treat female autoimmune conditions. And I don't know what is being used in the treatment of conditions like lupus. I don't know of a treatment for conditions like lupus. But hey, I could have overlooked it. He goes on to add that researchers have shown that a handful of other immune-related genes on the X chromosome escape inactivation, although the phenotypic effect of these escapes is not yet clear. So, this is why medicine is a practice. And why scientists will always have a job, because this thing that we have that is called a body is so well made, and it seems that we are just barely cracking the shell of getting to know how the body really functions. What we're working on now is precisely to develop experimental models to provide direct links between X chromosome inactivation escape of some genes and the development of better responses of viruses or the development of autoimmune diseases, says Giori. Researchers who spoke to the scientists also noted early research on other mechanisms involved in shaping male and female immune responses, including the regulation of certain genes on the Y chromosome, or even sex-specific biases in the composition of the microbiome. The picture that is emerging, says Klein, is one of a suite of biological mechanisms that provide females with stronger immune responses to viruses at the cost of a higher risk of autoimmune conditions, often later in life, a trade-off likely driven by natural selection. Now, this information was only just released. This is brand new information. And typically, as far as I can see, when information is released to the public, it is after it has been mulled over for quite a while. I don't know how long they have been toying with this bit of information, or the idea that women and men react differently when it comes to a viral infection. And it could be down to the chromosomal level that there's this difference. Are they then studying, and I think this was a question I asked earlier, how we can fight viruses and infections at a chromosomal level? So it's almost down to hormones when it comes to the fight against viruses and infections. Could that be where we're going in the next few years with future vaccines? Could they have a hormone component or a chromosome component to them? Does that now lead to genetic modification? Science. I don't know. I'm just speculating and asking as the questions come to mind. Many of us in the field hypothesize that this is tied to reproductive success. And one of the things a mother can give her baby during pregnancy is antibodies. Some of the immunity that we have. This is likely involved in a mechanism of protecting of young when they're most vulnerable to severe outcomes, says Klein. Again, going back to comment Joy made a whole lot earlier about breastfed babies versus non-breastfed babies and their immunity or perceived immunity. The scientist.com, the information as per the scientist.com continues and says, although research on COVID-19 has helped draw attention to research on sex differences in immunity, it also threw some curveballs at the field. A preprint that has widely reported in the media last year suggested that sex differences in antibody responses might be less clear-cut in SARS-CoV-2 infection than they appear to be for other types of viruses. Blood tests for more than 300 people with mild disease indicated that men may actually produce more antibodies than women in response to the virus. Although preliminary, these kinds of results are causing me to question my own dogma, says Klein. We are seeing that those patients that have the most severe disease, including men and older age adults, have greater antibody responses. Prior to this, I would have told you hands down men have lower antibody responses, and older age is associated with lower antibody responses, she says. Without further data, it's a chicken-egg question. And Klein goes on to add, it is that being male and being older, you're not controlling the infection. So there is more viral antigen stimulating the cells to drive that response. Or is that response why you're sick? Indeed, researchers are only just beginning to understand how age and other factors interact with sex to influence immune biology. Iwasaki's study, for example, found a complex relationship between sex, age, and T-cell activation in COVID-19 patients, with older male patients seeming to have a higher likelihood of worse disease and poorer T-cell activation, but female patients showing no such correlation with age. Klein and her Johns Hopkins colleague Andrea Cox are now running one arm of a multi-center study coordinated by the National Cancer Institute that will try to tease apart some of the biological effects of factors such as age and sex on COVID-19, as well as trying to understand how other sex-related factors, such as behavior and pre-existing health conditions, contribute to a person's risk of severe illness following SARS-CoV-2 infection. Work is continuing on the effect of biological sex on immune responses to other diseases too, including bacterial infections and cancer, and on the success of treatments for those conditions. Klein co-authored a review last year, for example, arguing that variation in health outcomes in cancer patients receiving immunotherapies such as checkpoint inhibitors, an approach that seems to have been more successful in men than in women to date, may partly stem from sex differences in immune responses. Properly understanding such differences will be a critical step toward the holy grail of precision medicine, an individualized approach that has so far failed to make inroads into treatments for most infectious diseases, let alone vaccination or other prevention strategies, says Atfeld. Everyone is speaking about personalized medicine, having personalized approaches for every individual, he says. I think is having a step before. Atfeld is saying, I think having a step before there, maybe stratifying the population into male and female and optimizing treatment strategies there, and this would be an important step. So Atfeld is saying, hey, you know what? We're looking at this generalized way of treating individuals. Let's break it down a little bit and separate the groups. Yes, we're gonna look at age groups, but let's even break that down some more and look at gender and how different genders respond to certain have their immune responses when it comes to a viral infection. Now, I think that's brilliant, considering the information that they have come across in the past few years. Here's the thing, though. How have they been studying this? So, throughout this article on thescientist.com, they mention research has shown and data has provided. But are they saying in the midst of all the testing that they were doing when it comes to finding out more about COVID, they have been running these tests alongside those? Or have these been tests that they've been looking at? They've been examining how or capturing data on how viruses or infections affect males versus females. The same virus affect males versus females at different age groups. If they can do that, then I guess it would be safe to say that they could take that step further and go to race and see how a particular virus would affect males and females of a particular race. Because we can't leave that out of the mix when it comes to science. You know, yeah, people are always going back to race and I'm okay with that. I will go there. Because when you have science experiments being conducted on a whole city of people just because of their race, you know, that's a problem. Tuskegee experiments, as an example. So, looking at this and the studies that they've been doing, I can't help but think if they got this down to a science, literally, they could determine the reproductivity within certain groups of individuals by age, race, and possibly demographic, geographical location. So, the science of it all, yeah, is where everything lies. This is how warfare has moved from giant nuclear weapons to tiny viral infections. So the wars have become, quote unquote, smarter. And they continue to morph into this smarter kind of a war where you can target groups of individuals scientifically. So we're looking at chromosomes, we're looking at cell structure, we're looking at genetics. What are these scientists not looking at? And again, not taking anything away from these findings. You know, not taking anything away from the fact that they're discovering that men and women react differently when it comes to a viral infection. And up until this point, we have looked at how viruses affect the body, just generally speaking. When there's a little bit more, you can get into specifics with this. And I guess moving forward, that is how we need to look at it. But then, not enough information is out there as at yet that states, okay, a man aged 30 getting the flu is expected to recover in X days versus a woman of the same age. Or anything relating to that. You know, we can get into variations on that theme. But if it comes down to the science like that, and then medication gets to change. And like Altfeld was saying, you know, the step before the personalized approaches to individual treatment is going to genders. Breaking it down that far. And then seeing where we get. You know, coming up, the remainder of this year seems to be very interesting as it relates to science. And I think people need to keep their eyes open and their ears to the ground when it comes to what is happening in our scientific world. In the midst of it all, though, one thing you can say is don't give up. Keep fighting, keep moving.
When the enemy comes like a flood, give praise to the Most High and keep it moving.
This is the sound of novelty.
Keep it moving. Yes, when they come with the next
Track is called Keep It Moving.
hold your head high, smile, smile, keep it moving. Keep it moving.
25 minutes to the top of the hour. This is our musical therapy.
2, left, right, 3, 4, keep it moving. Keep it moving.
More of a cerebral kind of broadcast tonight.
2, left, right, 3, 4, keep it moving. Keep it moving.
As we're talking,
Yes, they
I want to invite you guys to check out the podcast, The Night Shift with DJ Kevin Stew.
and keep it moving.
Yeah, man, check it out.
When the Father says yes, no,
Whatever podcast service you use,
keep it moving.
Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Podcast Addict,
2, left, right, 3,
Spotify, Amazon,
keep it moving.
Audible.
Left, right, 1, 2.
Yeah, man, you can find a Night Shift with DJ Kevin Stew on all these platforms.
With a positive
Thanks to Anchor FM or Anchor.fm. Podcast host. I do encourage you to give feedback and support. Every little bit helps. Tomorrow on Real Talk,
comes like a flood, give praise.
I'm gonna have an augmented or a specialized Real Talk tomorrow.
Keep it moving. When they come with the negative,
Coming up on Monday the 8th,
keep it moving.
Julius Jones has a hearing.
Let's go. Left, right, 1, 2.
This is where he gets to see if he can get his death sentence commuted.
Keep it moving. Left, right, 1, 2.
Come tomorrow night,
3, 4.
I'm gonna have family spokesperson Jimmy Lawson talking with us. And all being well, we'll also have Julius's sister Antoinette. And hopefully a member of the legal team. If you haven't seen the Julius Jones documentary as yet, please, please, please go check it out.
Give praise to the Most High God and keep it moving. Keep it moving. When they come with the negative vibe, hold your head.
You can find the entire documentary on justiceforjuliusjones.com.
Keep it moving. Let's go. Left, right, 1, 2,
But do
3.
check out Real Talk tomorrow. Yeah, you can use kevinstew.com. It's still you can still use it. They're still working on the site, but it still takes you to this broadcast at 10 p.m. Eastern. Those of you who don't yet follow me on social media, on Instagram it's at DJ Kevin Stew.
Isaiah 59:19 says, when the enemy comes in.
You can find me on Twitter at DJ Kevin at TNS with Kevin Stew, WID Kevin Stew. On Facebook you can look for the Night Shift to DJ Kevin Stew. Or you can search for me by name, Kevin DJ Kevin, that DJ dash Kevin as one word, and Stew as a second word, DJ Kevin Stew. Yeah man, we can keep it moving.
Isaiah 59:19 says, when the enemy comes in like a flood, our God will raise up a standard against him.
Mama one, Papa one, we woke up in a round a dead man corner. Sister one, brother one, we woke up in round a dead man corner.
A little Hezron for the Hezites.
Round a dead man corner.
It's called Dead Man Corner. New music from him on a Hush Darling rhythm.
Billy was a juvenile from the ghetto. Parents gave him the best that they could offer. But from what day Billy started to sing, now take no talk from nobody. Billy just a billion, a dollion, a cut and go through, lick down anything from the avenue. Don't go chasing waterfalls, Mama said. Birds past the nest, them fly too fast. But Billy never care, bad man no fear, only concerned to impress him peers. Change our name from Billy to Killy. Oh, here comes the meat of the story. Mama one, Papa one, we woke up in a round a dead man corner. His sister one, brother one, we woke up in a round a dead man corner. Billy do 90 miles in a 30 miles zone. Dead man corner. Hey, never did the one, he never slow down. A dead man corner. Where Billy there? Mama asked him. Dead man corner. Where Billy there? Papa asked him. Come on, live your life.
Any old way you choose, live it through the battles and the bruise. Go live your life. It doesn't matter what they say, what you eat don't make me puke anyway. Go live your life.
That's the title of the track.
Black or white, they will know they can't win that.
His name is Ed Robinson.
When they think it's red, let them know it's your life to live. Yeah. People say we gone astray, talking how we lose our way. One day they will know the things they say is far from so. The issue don't give when they talk about the life you live. Cause even if there is a price to pay, you will have to pay it anyway. Go live your life any old way you choose. Live it through the battles and the bruise. Go live your life. It doesn't matter what they say. What you eat don't make me puke anyway. Go live your life. If their list is black or white, they will know they can't win that fight. Go live your life. And even when they think it's red, let them know it's your life to live.
We're gonna lay it on bright and early, cause the heat is on, yeah. And I know that you're ready. Let us lay it on now. Now that we are moving in the groove.
This is that delightful Joanna Marie.
It's a hush, darling. Hush.
Producer of the rhythm.
Hurts to cry, hush, darling. Hush, cause I'm not gonna tell you.
Yeah, not giving you the remix tonight.
Darling,
15 minutes at the top of the hour.
there'll be a calm, yeah. And I will keep you warm.
This is Joanna Marie, and it's all about DJ Kevin Stew on the night shift.
Hey babe,
You feel for some stew? Check out Kevin Stew.
ooh, yeah, darling, hush, hush,
I just want to get close to you.
Joanna again working out with Peter G. Peter G has been doing some nice music coming out of Jamaica.
So lovely, want everyone to know why I'm in love with you.
patient and strong.
This one another production of Joanna Marie.
No matter what I face,
Joanna is all over this place.
just fine. On time. It took a while to see that your love was true.
Now no one cares.
Until
I belong
to you
until the end.
of time.
Good to know
Your
and all I want
to say.
till my dying day. I just wanna be close to you. Listen,
Compliments to you and the way you love
One more Ed Robinson.
me, one the way you've been all my life.
It's called All My Life.
Sometimes I wonder, is it for real or I'm a dreamer or I'm just hypnotized, baby. The moment I laid my eyes on you, I just knew you were the one for me. I'm so thankful that we're no longer strangers. You mean the world to me. Where have you been, girl? All my life. Now that I found you, baby, will you stay for life? Where have you been, girl? All my life. Won't you please stay with me for life? Pretty baby.
Abracadabra, form of a better rule. Add a little candle,
This is Lee Kelly.
send up your sweet perfume, girl. Hocus pocus, now you
It's called Magic.
just that I lie. Don't lose focus of what I'm about to show you tonight. I can do magic. Whoa, one snap of a finger, girl. I perform a trick on you. Anything you want me to do, I can do magic. Girl, all you gotta do is dim the lights. I perform a trick or two, baby. 'Cause I can do magic.
This is Alicia Marie. A track called Play Me.
Baby, I wanna know.
Lee Keller says, hey, listen, I can do magic. Alicia says, hey, come play me.
The way you move me, the way you move me, you got me feeling in the mood.
Show me some magic that way, why don't you?
Would you caress me? Take time to undress me. Would you play me the same way? Lately, every time I would see you play, I feel you move a certain way. And there were many times I would imagine that you would play me the same way. Yeah, the way you move me, the way you groove me, you got me feeling in the mood. No lie, would you caress me? Take time to undress me. Would you play me the same way? I can tell you have passion. I see it in your action. The way you move back and forth, back and forth.
10 minutes before the top of the hour, 10 minutes before I get on out of here.
Passion to transfer into my life. It's me and you tonight. The way you move me, the way you groove me, you got me feeling in the mood.
I want to thank you each and everyone for hanging out with me.
Would you caress me?
Thank you for sharing.
Take your time and undress me, baby. Would you play?
And since we know sharing is caring, thank you for caring.
Yeah.
This is La Vie.
I'm gonna love you as far as the sea goes.
A track called Sweetheart. It's called a Sweet Thoughts Rhythm.
You've got to let me know, 'cause there's a part
Courtesy of Keva Gitz.
I wanna show, yeah. 'Cause you are my sweetheart, so perfect for me. You are my sweetheart, and I am your queen. Why keep searching for something I know I wouldn't find, when you've been right here in front of me all this time? I'm telling you this now so you could understand that loving you is easy. I'm sure that you're the one, 'cause you're my sweetheart, yeah. So perfect for me. You are my sweetheart, and I am your queen. How many times must I hear it? Just one word. I don't care what they say.
This is Shamika.
I'll always choose you
A
first.
track called Priority.
They don't know that there's no me without you, and I can't even seem to breathe.
8 minutes to the top of the hour.
Kind of love is worth fighting for. And honey, I promise, loving you is my priority. You know I'll never let you go, never giving up, no. I promise, loving you is my security. Yeah. Your love is like food to my soul, there's no way that I can let
Tanya Saki as we close out the night shift.
I love you still.
It's called I Love You Still. I want to say thanks to GMAT Music Solutions for taking us through the musical therapy segment.
I love you still.
GMAT Music Solutions will bring your events to life, providing sound, light and stage production services, musical equipment, PA systems, audio engineers, DJs, bands, musicians, singers, and much more. Give them a call, 754-307-GMAC. That's 754-307-4622. Or check them out online, gmatmusicsolutions.com. Once more from the tippy top, Tanya Saki. Yeah, I love you still too. This is the Twigorific one.
The beautiful sunshine.
It's called Incapable.
Disappointing thoughts of you.
It's on up Twiggy.
I never liked the treatment the last time. I never understand why were you so unkind. So bad I didn't give you my love. Years gone by. So bad I didn't give you my it never ever crossed my mind, but glad you showed me the sign
I know each and every one of you are capable of love, so I don't have to stress too much that you should look out for members of your community, and that your community is not just a development that you live in, but it spreads far and wide. Those that you pass on the bus, on the plane, on the boat, on the train, these are members of your community, so look out for one of them today, because you never know who's going to look out for you tomorrow. Remember tomorrow, Real Talk Wednesday. Special guest Jimmy Lawson, family spokesperson for Julius Jones. All being well, we'll also be joined by Antoinette Jones, Julius' little sister, as we close out the night shift week with some real talk. I get out of here,
Like your treatment the last time.
I do encourage you to be good.
Never understand why were you so
Those of you who are new,
so glad I
my name is DJ Kevin Stew. This is how I like to do it to you, for you, and with you, 10 to midnight, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Wherever you are in the world, I say good morning, good afternoon, good day to you. From right here in South Florida, I bid you a good night. Y'all take care now, okay? Greetings and salutations, one and all. You're invited to tune in to the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew. It airs on Mondays with Community and Finance, Tuesdays with Healthy Love, and Wednesdays with Real Talk from 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time. Come spend some time interacting in the stew pot where we keep things bubbling and wind down in musical therapy. The Night Shift with DJ Kevin Stew is on kevinstew.com, where you're encouraged to have acceptance through enlightenment.